So this is Teacher Standard Part 2ii, having regard for the ethos, policy and practice within the school. I'd just like to start off with this one by saying that this was probably one of my weaknesses in my first couple of weeks at the school, as I probably didn't adhere to some of the behaviour policies that I should have, as in my last placement I didn't have to deal with many behavioural issues, whereas this one was completely different, and it's something that took time to get used to, but once I got used to it, I feel like it's one of my strengths now, and able to get on top of things earlier and create a more positive learning environment. So I'd like to start by saying Ball et al. 2012 show that behaviour policies are kind of integral to or throughout schools, and something that must be attended to, as it shows consistency and conformity throughout teachers within the school, and means that the students know exactly what's going to happen to them if they misbehave. Um, so here's the behaviour policy for the school. So it shows first warning, second warning, and then gets sent out. So the first warning is kind of informal, second warning, a bit more formal, and then the reflection period means that they're sent out of the classroom. Uh, this is something that works really well with the kids, as the informal warning means, okay, I need to settle down a bit. But when they get their second warning, generally not a lot get to the third warning, as they know that they're about to be sent out if they misbehave again. So with this student that I've just shown college points. So each student's in a college, and they get behaviour points, which are these ones here, or achievement points, and then they get achievement points here, and then they get behaviour points or behaviour incidents, which means that that's poor behaviour, and then it's deducted from your college point total. So the more behaviour incidents you have, the less college points you're more likely to get. So this was this one here is a build up of over a couple of lessons. So during the first lesson, um, this kid was misbehaved. So Jack here had 3 warnings, which meant that he was sent out of the class. And instead of giving him EPS, as I didn't feel it was necessary at the time, EPS is a extended progress period where they come after school and stay with you for a period of time. However, I didn't feel it was necessary at this time, so this time I gave him a negative point. So I wrote up a negative point on Sims, which then goes back and affects the achievement points overall for the college points. So this particular time, maybe not a result of mine, but as a result of other teachers as well, if you get to 10 negative points, you get put on report. So the following lesson, this student was on report, and I had to fill out his report. So he had 3 different targets to follow, which meant that he couldn't do any one of these, otherwise he'd get a cross instead of a tick, which meant that he'd be in more trouble. However, during my lesson, you can see throughout that he wasn't great all day. He didn't get 1 through ticks. So in my lesson here, he was very poor, which resulted in me giving him an EPS, which I didn't want to do. However, it was something that was necessary, as his behaviour was poor in the class, and I felt like he needed to stay behind after school to catch up. So I went about setting an EPS. So what I had to do was send an email to the person who sets up the EPS, just to make sure that I could put them on the register. So once this has gone through and they've clarified it, they will appear in red on their registers. So at pad time, which is their basically tutorial time in the afternoon, it will show up red, meaning that Jack knows that he has an EPS that evening, and means that he has to attend. Otherwise, he has to attend the following time. If he misses that, he'll get a 2-hour detention. So it shows up in red, so they know they definitely have an EPS on that day. So this particular day, it shows up on Sims, so you can go onto Sims and show that he does have an EPS, and shows whether he attended or not. However, this part here shows his attendance and shows that he did attend his EPS, which for me is a positive, which means that I didn't have to tell him off even more. During his EPS, I just had a conversation with him about respecting teachers and his behaviour, and it seemed like a really positive conversation that we had. However, the proof would have been in the next lesson. So during my next lesson, Jack was no longer on report because he'd finished his week and had obviously passed it. So from there on out, I didn't have to sign his report to show that he did well in class. What I did do was give him a positive point, because he was really well behaved in the lesson. And I feel like this was an impact of the EPS and the report, which meant that he sort of bucked up his ideas, and it showed that he can behave and that he should behave to get positive points. So here, you can give positive points for a range of things, and I decided to give him a positive point to show him respect, as he was always on task. and was always telling other students to be quiet when I wanted to speak. So after the lesson, I wrote in his on his Sims, which gave him a positive point. Which, going back to the beginning, where with college points here, so these points here go up and up, and the winners at the end get a prize. So he was able to get more positive points from lessons, and meant that he was always on task rather than messing about, and made him a more manageable student, which was really nice to see.